Hello, Kentucky basketball fans. Today we are going to be previewing the 2025-26 season, and I think it's going to be a fun one. We've got some guys who've come back from last year's team, Otega Owe and Brandon Garrison, and we've got a lot of new faces, Jalen Lowe, Jasper Johnson, Denzel Aberdeen, Jaden Quaintance. So there's a lot to discuss. We're going to preview. I'm going to give you guys my win predictions for the season. We'll look at the schedule. In the back half of this video, I'll give you guys what I think the rotation is going to look like. Albeit on this one with Kentucky, I've got a couple of different possibilities with their lineup and rotation. So let's jump right into it. Please like this video. So we've got the schedule pulled up here. And we are going to be moving through here. And I'll let you guys know how I feel about, each of these key non-conference games for Kentucky. We're not going to talk about each matchup for the season, but I'm going to give you guys how I think it's going to shake out in the non-conference portion and then in the conference portion for the schedule. So non-conference, this Louisville matchup at Louisville early in the season, I just think Louisville is going to be better positioned for this early matchup. I don't think Jaden Quaintance is going to be available for this one. Last year's game, Kentucky won, but I felt like it started off closer than I thought it would be, and I think this Louisville team is better than last year's, and I think Kentucky's going to get better as the year goes on, but I think this first one against Louisville, sorry to break it to you guys in this so early in the video, but I'm going to go with Louisville. You've got Michigan State in Madison Square Garden, and I think this is a game where I think this is going to be another tough matchup for Kentucky, but I think the Wildcats get this one done against Michigan State, and they get the W here. North Carolina, it's going to be a tough game. I think this North Carolina team is going to be much better than last year, but it is at home, and by December 2nd, there's the possibility, I think, that Quaintance is back for this one. With all that being said, though, I think based off of where this game is being played, I think Kentucky should get this one done. I'm going to go with Kentucky as well over Gonzaga. This is not a home game, but it's close enough in Tennessee. I just think I'm not sure where this Gonzaga team is going to be at after losing some key players from last year's team, especially Andrew Nembhard, Ryan Nembhard. So I just think Kentucky's defense and athleticism will give them the upper hand against Gonzaga. We've got them taking on Indiana at home. This Indiana team they've got a lot of new pieces, so it's a little bit tough for me to get a fair sense of where they're going to be at. But I think Kentucky will get this one done. And then Kentucky versus St. John's in Atlanta. Again, more of a home game for Kentucky, but not quite as close to home. Excuse me. I think St. John's is going to get this one done. I think they've got the shooting. They've got physicality inside, but edge of four. I think St. John's gets this one done, meaning I've got Kentucky winning the rest of their non-conference games. They finished 11-2 in non-conference play. So pretty good start to the season. You start looking at, I keep clicking the wrong things here. You start looking at the conference matchups. The first one, I think Kentucky is a better team than Alabama on paper, but I think the first conference game on the road at Tuscaloosa is going to be a tough draw. So I've got Kentucky losing this one to Alabama. I think they win their next three. And then, again, tough road matchup at Tennessee. I think Tennessee gets that one done. They win their next three here with Texas, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt. And then I think, again, going on the road at Arkansas is a tough place to play. So I don't think they get that one done. Oklahoma, Tennessee at home. I think those are wins. I think they lose the road game at Florida. They win at home versus Georgia, lose on the road to Auburn. I think they beat South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, and Florida at home to close out the season, which I believe, if I've done my math correctly here, leads them to a 13-5 conference record and a 24-7 regular season record, which if my memory is correct, is a 4-win improvement over last year's team. So pretty solid season for Kentucky. I will say, before we jump into this rotation, the one concern, and I'll talk about it as we look at the rotation for this team, is the shooting. The quality of the three-point shooting from this roster is a real concern of mine, because I think they've got the athleticism from their guards in the wings, and they've got a lot of depth. I think that's the biggest strength of this team, is they just have a lot of guys you can insert in any given game. Injuries, etc., foul trouble. I think they're well positioned to deal with all of that. So let's look at this rotation. So I've got my depth chart here, and then I've got the rotation, and I've got the players' names, kind of blacked out for now until we reveal them. And then on this particular one, I'm going to give you guys a couple of different variations for how I think the rotation is going to shake out. So let's just get this one out of the way. Jaden Quaintance, I have as not in the rotation. That's because I don't expect him to be ready to play. Looking at the most recent comments from Mark Pope, I know there was hope initially that he'd be ready to go from the start of the season. I just didn't really buy that. And then the most recent comments from Coach Pope seem to indicate to me that they are going to wait until he is 100% ready to go, which I think makes the most sense. This is a guy who's positioned to be a lottery pick in next year's draft. So there's no reason to rush it. And the idea for this team is to play their best basketball once we get to March, right? And so you want to have Quaintance as healthy as possible for that scenario. So there's a couple of guys, though, that I do think are going to be locks for this rotation and starting lineup. And we're going to start with the point guard, Jalen Lowe. I don't think there's going to be much doubt he's the starting point guard for this team. He did not shoot the ball well at all last year at Pittsburgh. Now, I'm a big Jalen Lowe guy, but he just did not shoot the ball well enough last season. Can he improve? He was at 27% from 3 on 5 attempts, 35% on 2.5 attempts the year prior. So there is a chance that was a down year and that he will improve this season. You've got Otega Oweh, who I expect to be his backcourt running mate and was the best player in Kentucky's team last year, and I think he's going to be the best player on this year's team. The only thing with Oweh is he's not a guy who shoots a high volume of threes. That's part of the concern with this team. I think at the 4 spot, we're going to go with Mohamed Diabate. And Diabate is a really... Listen, as a guy who watched a lot of SEC games, a few Alabama games for sure, he may not be the best offensive player, but what he gives you with defense, rebounding, and just hustle plays, he's a guy you love to have on your team. And for that reason, he's the guy who I projected to have the 3rd most minutes on this roster. It's what Coach Pope was looking for in terms of a toughness and a grit, and Diabate gives you that in spades. Now, for now, this player is going to be Brandon Garrison, the starting 5. But I don't expect that to be the case once Jaden Quaintance is ready to go. I think Garrison's minutes will drop off, and maybe substantially. And that'll depend on a couple of other players, which we're going to talk about. Now, this is where I think things get interesting. For me, I know a lot of you guys are going to disagree with this, and that's perfectly fine. I would start Cam Williams. I think he's got true wing size at 6'8". I think he'll be a better rebounder than some of the other guards options we'll talk about. And I think most importantly, you combine the size, the defense, and then what I think is really important, especially when you start guys like Diabate and Oweh, and we're not sure will Jalen Lowe be able to rebound his three-point shooting. I would bet on it, but you're not sure, right? So you need spacing. I think Cam Williams provides that for this team. So, with that being said, I've got, in this iteration, Denzel Aberdeen as the 6th man, and we're going with Jasper Johnson as the 7th man. But again, as you can see, I've got him playing 20 minutes apiece. So you could say Jasper Johnson is the 6th man, Aberdeen's the 7th man. It really doesn't matter. And I think these guys early on with Cam Williams, I think we'll see different starting lineups. And I think there's value for each of them to start. Maybe you do look at a Jasper Johnson as your starting 2 guard. You move Oweh to the 3. I think that's a possibility. You get more offensive versatility. You may lose a little bit of defense and rebounding. You put Aberdeen in there. You may get a little bit more ball handling for sure instead of a guy like Cam Williams, but you may lose some of the consistency from outside the line. Now, some of this also is projecting that Cam is going to be able... What do you got there? Hold on, my dog's got something. Oh, that's not too bad. All right, we're back. We got puppies here. We gotta make sure they're not chewing on anything too bad. All right, what I was saying with Aberdeen with Cam Williams, I'm projecting that his move up in level of competition, he's going to be able to handle decently well. And I don't think he's going to have a large role, which is part of that. I think he's going to be a 3-and-D guy, not have a ton of responsibility, but just guard, rebound, and knock down open shots. And I think he's going to be able to do that. Now, this next guy, I think, is the biggest wild card in this team, and that's Andrija Halilovic. And I think he's he could be playing a lot more minutes than this, considering he was playing in the Serbian league. 11 points, 7.5 rebounds, a steal, almost a block per game. I don't expect Halilovic to play much at center, but I think there's a world where Diabate is playing at that center spot and Halilovic is your 4, and you've got a lot more pace and versatility offensively. So I think Halilovic is a guy who could end up playing more minutes. I think it's one of the pros and cons of the amount of depth of this team is that, oh goodness, we're talking here, is that it's going to be hard to figure out who should be getting minutes. And I think that's going to be some of the early season adjustments. So I could see this team playing much better once we get to February than they are in November, December, because guys will figure out their roles. For right now, I've got Malachi Moreno playing 12 minutes a game as the backup center. And again, I think he'll be in a competition with Garrison to be the backup center as the season goes on and once Quayton is available. But Moreno, is top 25, top 30 recruit. I just think there's a lot of depth at this center spot, especially if they look at Diabate playing some at center. And so we'll see how the competition shakes out. If you're still watching this video, hit that subscribe button. I'll definitely be checking in on Kentucky throughout the season. And lastly, I've got Colin Chandler playing 10 minutes a game off the bench as a 3-and-D wing. But Chandler could be a guy who ends up playing more than this if Cam Williams proves he's not ready. And then that leaves guys like Braden Hawthorne, Reese Potter, and Trent Noah out of the rotation for now. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Until next time, peace.